Welcome to the official podcast of Cardinals Nation 24/7. Each week, we put a unique perspective on bringing you the latest news, updates, and rumors of the St. Louis Cardinals baseball organization. Join the nation and stay informed by liking us on Facebook, following us on Twitter, subscribing to us on the podcast form of your choice, and most of all, by subscribing to our YouTube channel. Thank you all for supporting the nation. Let's get things started. Here are your hosts, Jared Redwine, Chris Lawless, and Larry Cox. Hello, Cardinals Nation, and welcome to another episode of the Cardinals Nation 24/7 podcast. I'm Jared Redwine, joined as always by my friends and co-hosts, the living legend Larry Cox and Chris the Bearded Dragon Lawless. We're also joined tonight by a good friend of ours and another member of the Cardinals Nation 24/7 team, Mr. Zach Jen. Everyone, good evening.
Welcome, Zach.
Good evening.
Just throw it all out there at once so we don't go time for time. We got a lot to talk about in a short period of time, so we'll just get started off quick, and I'll lead it off with you, Chris. All-star selections. We have two, Nolan Arenado and Alex Reyes. Just real quick, your thoughts on the two of them making the all-star team, and do you think anyone was snubbed and left off?
I think, well-deserved on both parts. Arenado has pretty well carried this team. Alex Reyes, even though we wanted him to kind of see some action as a starter, he's took that closer role and embraced it, 20 for 20 and save opportunities, and an ERA, I think, of 1.52. So that's impressive and, well-deserved for him. I know the pitching wasn't the fan vote. Arenado was the fan vote, but, regardless, it's nice to have more than one Cardinal represent the team in the All-Star game.
Yeah, I agree with you. Larry, going to you. I mean, your thoughts quick on Arenado and Reyes making the team. Do you think anybody was left off in your opinion? You're not surprised that Molina didn't somehow make it as a reserve?
No, I don't think he's had quite the season that he could have knocked somebody else off the roster in order to get on there. With a popularity vote, of course, he wasn't going to get that outside of St. Louis. Reyes is really nice to see him after us waiting so long to see the kid come up. Now he's an all-star his first year. That's pretty impressive. So, and of course, Nolan, he's the best third baseman in the National League. So,
good point. Zach, what about you? I know you're new to the podcast, but you're not new to Cardinals baseball. So what are your thoughts on the all-star selections? And do you, in your opinion, think anybody was left off of the potential all-star roster?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody was really left off as far as the team goes. I mean, early on, you thought maybe Molina had a chance, maybe Edman had a chance the way they started off the season. As things kept going the way they were, I think definitely those two probably could have been in the mix. Maybe even throw Tyler O'Neill in there if he doesn't get hurt. But no, I mean, the two guys that we have representing the Cardinals, I think, are a good representation, and they've done a really good job of being the front runners for the team out there.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was thinking maybe there might be a chance that Flaherty was named to the All-Star team and then named, someone to replace him because of being injured, just because his numbers were so good leading up to his injury, but maybe he got injured just a little bit too quick. But while we're talking about that, and Zach touched on, Tyler O'Neill being injured. Tyler O'Neill's out again today's game on this Tuesday the 6th because he has a food allergy. He's the new J.D. Drew of the Cardinals. He has a bad pinky. He has food allergies. He's got the sniffles. He's sitting out. Carlos Martinez, obviously, we don't know what's going to be happening with him. His return date is unknown. He's got a right thumb bruise. But, Chris, your thoughts on Carlos Martinez? He looked like he was actually having a decent start, and that's what we get out of Carlos Martinez. We've talked about him 100 times. He's either doing really well or doing really bad, and he looked like he was having a decent start. And then you heard his thumb. He's taken out of the bottom of the fourth inning once again due to a pitcher batting. He had injured it batting prior to that, and then went out and was still having problems. So he fouled off a basically 98-mile-an-hour fastball and hurt his thumb. And that's where we're at. Your thoughts on Martinez and just overall all the damn injuries we're seeing in Major League Baseball due to pitchers having to swing the wooden stick?
Yeah, we've touched on that several times. That we're not a fan of seeing pitchers hit, just for instance like this, that it might not be a major injury, but something like that can cost this team. Carlos, the thing with him, obviously he was needing to pitch well, had a good outing, and then come in, and this was kind of a second start where he was doing okay. I think Schilt and them, they kind of had a meeting behind closed doors, and basically a come to Jesus meeting with him of, are you going to be able to focus? Because, we pulled Gant from the rotation. I think he was going to be next in line. It was, get your shit together if you're going to stick in the rotation. And he went out and he pitched well. This was the second game and looked like he was on track to do well again. And, lo and behold, another injury for the Cardinals. So they've got him listed as day-to-day. Hopefully it won't cost him a start, but I also hope that it doesn't get in his head where, it gets him out of rhythm, because he's a rhythm pitcher.
Your quick thoughts, Larry, on the Martinez injury and another person going down. I mean, I know we've talked about it before, but you have to think it's becoming a problem in all of baseball. Not only that, we already lost Flaherty due to hurting his oblique originally from swinging the bat. Now Martinez, an already very serious injury-ridden team and rotation, to say the least, and then we have another one go down.
Yeah, I just think across the board, I think all Major League Baseball, I think this is just kind of, it bodes that we're going to go to the DH next year. The contract negotiations are going to just take it away. We're not going to see the pitcher hitting anymore, which, a little bit too late for this year's team, of course. But even to start back with Waino and his injury when it happened, the Achilles. So, yeah, I think this is long overdue, even though I'm not a fan of the DH. But when you got this much money and these guys invested, you got to protect your assets that you have. And pitching is at such a premium now across the league. And then you see a guy like this that finally looks like he's got that decent start going, like we said, or like Chris said. And then it just an injury, not from a comebacker or anything of that nature. It's something that happened because he's swinging a bat that he shouldn't have been swinging.
Yeah, and Zach, I don't want to really just ask the same question to you, but I want to get your opinion overall, because you haven't been able to make it here to join us in some time. So I wanted to ask your general thoughts on the pitcher batting. Do you are you in agreement with us? You think it's going to for sure be gone with the next CBA at the end of this year? And are you going to miss that part of baseball, or do you like seeing the pitcher coming up to the plate?
Yeah, I definitely think it will be gone. I think, us as Cardinal fans, and you look at Cardinal Nation in general, I think we've been kind of baseball purists in the way that, no way do we want the DH. It takes that level out of the game. But I think last year kind of opened up the window of what could be. And, this season we've had the tale of two Carlos Martinez's. You get good or you get really bad. And, we're at a point where our AAA team is, they look at their ERA, it's abysmal. Nobody really looks attractive to come up. But we did pull Liberatore off the Olympic roster. So, we're kind of in dire straits here. And you don't really want to see anybody else get hurt. It seems like all of our pitchers, with the exception of Jack, I mean, he noticed his injury during an at-bat, but he did get hurt before the at-bat. But everybody else, it seems like they've done something to get hurt during that at-bat. So, I mean, really, when those are your bread and butter, or the guys that are supposed to be worth a lot of money, I mean, you don't want to keep sticking them out there. And I do think it's going to add another element to the game. As far as, even the way teams are formatted and the way teams have to go about free agency in the NL that they never had to before.
Yep. I agree with what you say there. I think it's kind of just forced the way the money is involved now in Major League Baseball and the types of contracts these pitchers are getting. It's a different type of investment than it was for old school baseball back even in the, 70s, 80s, even the 90s. It was a different game and different money involved. So I think as the game has evolved and changed over the years due to these contracts and the money these guys are making, you definitely have to, the game has to change just because it's just too much money out there. On the bright side of things, guys, Miles Mikolas, he's rumored to be start throwing bullpen sessions by the All-Star break. That was the last for an expected return, maybe sometime in August. That last update for that potential injury was at the end of June, where they said that's what they're hoping for. I'm not going to hold my breath on Mikolas. It seems like one thing after another with him. He's just kind of reminds me of almost like Chris. Not saying that his career is done, but it kind of reminds me of the last couple of years we saw Chris Carpenter. It seemed like he tried to come back, pitch a game or two, he's done. He's back out. So. Flaherty, he started some light toss, I guess, back in June, but nothing major yet. with the significance of his injury and the season quickly going in a downward spiral, I don't see them rushing him back. I see them actually probably, even if he is ready, taking more of the precautionary route and slowing him down perhaps. Another person, Ponce de Leon, he's been having shoulder problems. He pitched to 2 batters on the 22nd of June. We haven't seen him since, but he did miss 20 games with similar shoulder soreness. So who knows? They don't think he's going to require any surgery, but they don't have a expected timetable for him yet. That's somebody, in this situation earlier in the year, we thought we don't want him, but then he made a couple of good bullpen appearances. And sometimes it might be nice to have somebody like him, or even Cody Whitley, who is out from back spasms. His injury too is the same way. He tossed a scoreless inning on the 2nd, so it looks like he's already rehabbing a little bit. So they might need him sooner than later with the way the rotation is going, especially with Carlos Martinez. Nobody knows. That's to be determined what's going to happen with him. And then you have O'Neill. So I'll circle back to the pitching here, Chris. Whenever we were connecting here, Zach and Larry and I, we were talking and we were just going back and we were looking at, because everyone says, hey, we need to call up Libator, we need to call up Zach Thompson, we need to call up Parsons. We're all of those guys, and Zach pointed out today, Libator's allowed 8 runs, 6 earned on 4 innings tonight. Nobody's looking good. Parsons has an ERA over 6. Thompson has an ERA of 9 so far in the minor league season, hasn't won a single game. So, we do kind of, and I'm one of those guys too that always says the Cardinals take a long time, but there's really so far not much to look at in Memphis. Memphis is also the bottom feeders in their division in AAA. And, and Larry made a good point that a lot of these minor leaguers are usually trying to figure things out, but we kind of look at that as, some of the lower A ball, usually by Memphis. Those guys are usually kind of have an idea of how they're going to attack batters and have a game plan in place. And they're just trying to, make an impact so they can get called up to the big league roster. But there's really nowhere to pull from in the minor leagues. And if you do, you're not sure what you're going to get. No one's setting the world on fire to force the front office to make a move.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at AAA Memphis, that's basically, they should be competitive games there. They shouldn't be like working on things like you would in spring training. The fact that they are bottom feeders, in their division down there, that speaks to both sides. Their offense hasn't been providing much. Pitching wise, though, like you said, all their ERAs are inflated. It's hard to really grasp it. That's been a strength of the Cardinals in years past is, Memphis has been somewhere you could just pick and pluck from and guys come up and contribute. And now I think they're so young down there that you don't want to start maybe a Liberators MLB clock is a lot of the reason why they don't want to do it. But at the same time, when he's struggling and not like totally lights out down there, do you bring the kid up, and let him get blown up here and then really get exposed? I can't imagine what the backlash would be from our fan base if we did. And he goes out and has a shitty outing, it'd be like, oh my God, this is the guy we traded Rosarena for. I know they're wanting to take their time with him, but, Mozeliak has made some moves like LeBlanc and Waddell and, this latest guy that they got from the Nationals, that I think that's the route they're going to go. I don't think they're going to be calling up these young guys. I think you're going to see some more relief appearances out of these guys, and LeBlanc given a chance to start. That kind of speaks to how desperate the Cardinals are on, putting Band-Aids on this problem.
Yeah, Chris makes a good point, but I mean, nobody in Memphis is forcing the front office to make a move. I mean, if Libator, Thompson, or Parsons, which we thought Parsons made a case to make the roster in spring training, but he didn't. And then sometimes we don't think about maybe the psychological effect that can have on a guy. Hey, I've went out and I pitched well. I should make the team. I don't, and he hasn't looked well since. I mean, if Libator, Parsons, Thompson, somebody, they were lights out, it might force the issue, because Cardinals Nation, even though everyone's saying it now, and obviously they're not paying attention to the numbers, it could kind of force the issue to where say, yeah, well, we don't want to start this guy's clock, but he's really tearing it up and we need him. So let's go ahead and make a move and see what he can do. But none of the players are forcing that hand.
Well, it's kind of a double-edged sword as well, is that not only do you start his MLB service contract, but you have to eliminate somebody that's on the active 40-man. So which person are you going to move down so they can move up? And right now, you've got a bunch of serviceable parts, like the Waddell and LeBlanc and those guys, and even the guy that, like Chris mentioned from the Nationals, we picked up. Listen to Sean Casey and them on MLB yesterday. They said the guy really he was lights out 2 years ago, and then he had one bad game and his ERA ballooned, and then after that they lost confidence in him. They just didn't pitch him. So he may be a diamond in the rough that we just don't know about yet. But again, like you said, you bring those guys up like a Zach Thompson or one of those guys, and they get shelled in their debut. Who was the kid a couple years ago that his major league debut, he gave up like 9 runs. Remember, I can't remember, against the White Sox. And
it was Roel Ramirez, the guy that we just called up and then designated for Nogowski and then sent him down again.
He's never been the same since, and he had a solid minor league career before that, because that was during the Luke Weaver and all that stuff was going on. But again, we don't know what their mindset is right now. If the season continues to slip the way it is, then we do bring the young kids up and we just let them get some playing time, and maybe they're prepared for next year. Other than that, there's no reason to rush them. It's not like we're in a pennant race or anything, so why bring them up here? But the old adage is that if they get hurt in St. Louis, they can get hurt in Memphis. So you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
Yeah, what about you, Zach? And Zach is wearing a sweater, so I sure as hell know he doesn't live in Arizona, where I'm at. Zach, your thoughts, though, on the approach. There's no reinforcements in the minor leagues. Maybe he did a deep dive into Double-A or even Single-A. We've seen some players make that jump from Double-A to a major league, and we did it the last couple years a couple times, but there's really no seeming standout arms for a rotation right now. Where do you see the Cardinals making a move to beef that up, or do you just see them doing these piece moves like Justin Williams and LeBlanc and these guys coming in? And also, a second question to you, I want to start with you on this because we haven't had you on before. Do you also think, me personally, I think if the season continues the way it is, they're not going to call up anyone from the minor leagues because they're going to keep that clock from starting. But do you, in essence, feel that maybe the Cardinals are just going to make these little moves and go with it is, and the season is lost at this point, or do you see them trying to do something different?
Yeah, I mean, obviously these little moves have been really all they can do, and I think it's probably because what else is out there as far as teams wanting to trade anything. Their price tags super high, but I think as we get closer to the deadline, I think they're probably going to put feelers out there. Unless we're 15 games back or whatever it is, I think now we still have a shot where we could make a run. I mean, it's early enough, and the Brewers just went off, on a unbelievable run for 12 games. And so, they could easily pull a Chicago Cubs and lose 9 in a row. And then we're, right back where we kind of were a couple weeks ago. But, I don't really see them making any big moves. Like I said, they might put some fillers out there, but also if you look at what the Brewers have done over the last year, every time they've had a big injury, they've maybe pulled up 2 guys from their AAA team, but they've actually gone out on the market and just picked somebody up, and it's kind of worked for them. And so, if you kind of take a page out of their playbook or another team's playbook, who maybe doesn't have a super deep, minor league club because you've already taken that talent or they're not ready, when you're kind of in a jam, that might be what it takes. I could see, if we don't pull up anybody, maybe that one addition we get in September, maybe you pull up Parsons or Liberatore and give them the month to pitch and see what they got. That way you're not starting their clock. But I really don't see anything until then, unless we really go on a run and, going into late August, early September, we're, within a couple games of winning it.
Yeah. So, Chris, what do you think? We've talked about teams making moves, but as we slip farther and further down, the likelihood of the Cardinals trying to make a move here, especially before the All-Star break, to where they can try to regain some lost momentum, they're kind of running out of time. The sand in the hourglass, as they speak, is almost out. What do you see going with the team? We just made a move too. I also want to ask you in the same sentence about the John Nogowski deal. He was traded to the Pirates for cash. Obviously, we didn't have a place for him, but we didn't give him much of an opportunity. Cardinals were trying to free up a spot, which they did for Ramirez, and they just designated him 2 days later when they picked up Williams. But the Cardinals also, as a whole, Chris, and I'm probably throwing 3 questions at you at once, but they've made a lot of these little quick moves this year that don't seem to make a lot of sense, like they did with Hurst and these 40-man moves. And now we're limited, regardless if we do pick someone up, like Zach mentioned we don't have space for him because we've called up these people that we don't really use or utilize, or it's for a day or two move. It's almost like they don't have a long-term picture in mind this season for the Cardinals. And I'm not saying fire Mozeliak. I'm just saying I just don't feel like, and we talked about this last week, organizationally, I don't think the vision is there. And obviously there's lacking in Memphis. We have a lot of big stars there. There's something wrong with the whole organizational approach, in my opinion.
No, I totally agree. I mean, we talked last week that, it was kind of a shame that Nagowski hadn't really been given a look. And then obviously you don't get much for him in return. I think he had 2 hits for Pittsburgh last night, which is more than he had for us. You hate to see it, but you're glad to see him at least get an opportunity. As far as the Cardinals, like organizationally, how they're handling things, there was a tweet put out by Ken Rosenthal earlier that, he thinks that there's a lack of communication and that the players and coaches aren't on the same page. And I don't know if he has legit sources that are telling him that. I can't imagine Ken Rosenthal just, tweeting something to tweet it. There has to be something behind it. It might have something to do with Tommy Edmonds' comments a couple of weeks ago. But, when you look at what the Cardinals could do, it's still early in the season where a lot of teams aren't going to be sellers yet. So you don't really know what is going to be available that's going to be a move that could put this team over the top. I know that we'd been linked to maybe getting Joey Gallo and Gibson from Texas, but at the cost of you're probably going to give up a top prospect if you do this. I don't know if the Cardinals want to go that route or just stay the course and, let the young guys get their learning curve in. It would be nice to have some legit threat out there. The free agent class of shortstops next year is going to be unbelievable, which I think is really going to put Paul DeYoung's future in question, because I think that's something the Cardinals will address via free agency next year. Is the shortstop position is something we're not very deep in the minors on. Paul DeYoung, I think, is being exposed for what he is. A fairly good defensive shortstop, one with power, but 200 hitter. But I'm not really sure organizationally from top to bottom whether that's Mozeliak, whether that's Schilt, Mike Maddox, or Jeff Albert. It does seem like nobody's on the same page. It doesn't make sense. I've never seen this many people on a 40-man roster before. They're kind of grasping at straws, and I know injuries have been a big part of that, but usually they've got a pecking order, that they know who they're going to call up and put on the 40-man. Like you said, Scott Hurst, that didn't make any sense. A lot of these moves haven't been, and Mozeliak hasn't come out and really addressed it and give the fan base really much comfort on the reasoning behind it.
Yeah, just the whole, a lot of these little pitching maneuvers haven't made sense too. We've even made mention of using the taxi squad to benefit. The taxi squad is there for a reason. Why not rotate some of these guys? And Quezada's been hurt, but he's made a few appearances now for Memphis, and they've been scoreless appearances. So to me, whenever you're already making that move and Quezada is on the 40-man, I feel like you have to, call him up and give him a shot. We have to try to mix and match. Maybe Williams would be good. I do like the LeBlanc signing. He's and we're messaging about this, all of us. It kind of does take you back to the Dave Duncan reclamation project type days, and I like the attitude that he has and just his interviews that he's had, his approach to the game. But it's like the way he goes about the way he does things. He's kind of like an old school player, I think, and kind of gives some of these younger guys someone to look up to. But Larry, your thoughts? I mean, obviously, it looks like there's some kind of disconnect. Edmund made some comments that, there was a disconnect, in the approach. Schilt then later in an interview owned up to it. But now with Ken Rosenthal, if it was one of these guys on Twitter writing for Joe Schmo out of their grandparents' basement, I wouldn't believe it. But Ken Rosenthal, Joel Sherman, these guys are big time reporters that are saying there's a huge disconnect, and rumblings are getting out there, whether you like it or not. I mean, even if it's something minor, it's going to get out in the media, but there's obviously something to it. Well, I mean, your thoughts on the disconnect? And then Edmund was sat for a couple of games after, and he's still one of the best hitters, and for some reason they moved him down in the order, which doesn't make sense to me either. But your thoughts on the whole disconnect in the report today from Rosenthal?
Well, I've been the biggest proponent of John Mozeliak since he's been here. Just the overhaul of the entire organization. With Jocrity, we really didn't have a farm system because it seemed like all we were was a shopping spot. We kind of just swapped those guys out all the time, and we never had real big Nathan talent. But then when we came in with Lunau and Mozeliak, it looked like we had a building block and we had a foundation. We're moving in the right direction. And now it just seems like there's no steady flow of talent coming. And then the talent we have is just like a John Nagowski. He didn't even get an opportunity. Then we ship him off for cash considerations. That makes no sense. The Randy Arozarena trade. Now we see like Garcia, the whole deal in Texas. I mean, the guy's an all-star. So this can't be a fluke that this keeps happening. And, maybe this is a Randy Flores issue. Maybe the scouting department's, maybe that's where it's at. Who knows? But I also think that a lot of this is just the change in the whole sabermetrics and changing how we relay stats to the hitters before they go to bat. I think in the old days, I think it was more of you went up there and you made the adjustments to the plate. You hit a guy or you didn't hit a guy, but you made those adjustments. Now these guys are so enamored with this video presentations and they're looking to see the weaknesses and stuff, and I think it gets in their heads. But I think that's a Jeff Alberts thing. I think that, they loaded up with all that material. These guys go out there and they got so much going on. They're not even playing baseball anymore. It's a video game. And I think a lot of it is the organization as a whole is not grasping the system. So maybe it is time for a whole overturn of the whole system. But if, Cardinals fans right now want everybody fired, you realize when you fire all these managers, you're starting from ground zero all over again. You think it's bad now when all these guys are gone, then you're starting from zero.
Yeah, Zach, we haven't heard your opinion on it, so we're going to throw you right into the fire here. I mean, who would you fire?
Who would I fire? Well,
we did ask that last week, but yeah. What are your thoughts? I know you're a big Ken Rosenthal guy.
Right. Well, it's hard to know who to believe anymore. And I just think if you just take a step back, even and kind of look at his comments from a bigger picture of what we looked like going in this year. I mean, we cut Colton Wong right after the season last year when Arenado wasn't even a potential possibility because that didn't really even, come to fruition as a possibility until November. And I think you look at that and that was kind of okay. Mo even said that approach was okay. We're going to throw something at the wall and see what sticks. There's 50 million reasons why this won't work out. And then sure enough, it worked out. So from there, expectations change. I don't really think they had a plan on going into this season. I'm not saying they were going to tank or that we were going to, purposefully be bad, but I don't think they really had a plan put in place to go win a pennant, to go make a deep run, knowing that we have money coming off the books, knowing that this free agency is really big. I think they were going to let young guys play, and then Arenado happened, and his expectations are high, the fans' expectations are high, and then everybody in the locker room with a player like that, their expectations get high. And so, when you have coaching staff and Jeff Alberts is nothing new. I mean, we've been saying it kind of since he came on and the whole light of the Astros scandal, what part did he play in that? You got to think he knew something was going on, even though they all say nothing. I mean, I'm a believer that you can't just be the assistant hitting coach and know nothing was going on. So to me, in my opinion, it's, what did he know and what success did he actually play in that picture there? I think he's got to be accountable for not having a game plan. I've said it to you guys as a player when Skip Schumacher was with the Cardinals, I wasn't too big on him, but everything that's come out of the Padres he's a big reason for their success. So, I mean, if we're going to go in a different direction, I think it's definitely a new hitting coach. Maddox, I don't even know what the pitching coach really does, to be honest with you. I mean, it seems like a lot of the young guys like him. But, from a managerial standpoint, if Schilt does go, I'd like to look for somebody like Skip Schumacher, somebody who's maybe been in the organization, but somebody who's now been external for a while. Maybe somebody inside the organization is the way to go.
Yeah, I don't know if this is a Schilt issue, and as we're speaking, Goldschmidt finally did something. But I mean, Goldschmidt is having a down year. I mean, let's just be honest. And I wanted to touch on that too because we're talking about pitching a lot and injuries. But this offense, other than the occasional, we had Bader that was down for a while, and O'Neill's been in and out. But for the most part, a lot of our our core offense, Molina did miss a little bit, like a week or so, but most of our hard impact guys, Carlson, Edmund, Goldschmidt, Arenado, they've been around, and Molina has for the most part, and probably played more than most catchers, even with his injury. So, our offense is something that people should be afraid of, and they haven't been performing other than Arenado. And Arenado's numbers are probably down a little bit, but that's probably because there's nothing going on around him. You can't just have one guy carrying the team. Then they move Carlson into the leadoff spot, which I think is a big mistake. I don't think that's a good spot for him. You have Edmund with some speed. I don't know why they flip-flopped him. They're both batting the same, and I think Carlson's on-base percentage is a little less. His OPS is higher, so I would want him down further in the order. Doesn't make any fucking sense to me. I don't know if they're throwing darts at their dartboard when they make the batting order or what the hell's going on. And Sosa hasn't been a bad player. He's been kind of a nice, pleasant surprise on the season, but I would rather have Paul DeJong batting eighth and having his potential to put out of the ballpark. We can't have a whole team of 200 hitters, but if Paul DeJong's going to be one of those guys, then I would let him play just for the ability, like we've mentioned Matt Carpenter before. The ability that they have to potentially put a ball deep into play or double off the wall, to me, is a bit of a game changer. You have all those other spots with all these guys that we pay all this money to get the rest of the job done on the other times. And I actually think it was opposite. I think the Cardinals are in bad shape now, and they're scrambling because they did, after, kind of like Zach said, I don't think they had a big plan, but then Waino came back, Yachty came back, traded for Arenado. Okay, now the pressure's on. We have a good team. We've got Flaherty. We've got Waino. We've got Carlos Martinez. Mikolas is coming back. We got Kim. We've got a good rotation. We've got a deep bullpen. We've got Hicks. And, we've got Reyes. And, Reyes might start. And we've got Ponce, who's going to do well. And they had all these options, and they've just all turned to pure shit. And they haven't done a good job of, countering that and rotating and trying to pivot and find a different move. That's my fucking opinion, but at least Goldschmidt finally did something. Goldschmidt betting 2 in the order is stupid, in my opinion, too. I think that's fucking retarded. And Molina batting 5th, I like Molina, but he's not a 5th place hitter.
So my question is,
I need a Tylenol.
I'm sorry. Do these guys just come over and they forget how to hit? I mean, Goldschmidt was a hitter, and he comes over and now he can't hit. Did he just forget on the airplane ride from Arizona to St. Louis? Or is Jeff Albert saying, hey, don't swing the way you've swung for the last 25 years because we don't like it? I mean, that's
a good point.
I don't understand. I just don't get it. Because
that's a great point. That's a great point, Larry, because, Jeff Albert's numbers are shit, and they have been worse and worse every year. But guys, I can see it affecting guys, like even Carlson or Edmund, but it hasn't, because those guys came up from the organization, right?
Right.
But your Molina and your Arenado and your Goldschmidt, these guys have been playing for a long time. These guys are probably not, other than maybe some kind of little approach here and there, they're really not going to take into account much of what's going on. I don't know if it's just pregame strategy about what pitchers like to throw, or if they're not prepping proper. And that's what Edmund said, pregame preparation. That could be anything. That could be sitting down, going over what pitchers are going to, how the pitchers are going to try to attack you, scouting reports.
Like
O'Neill's been a pleasant surprise.
Our pre-podcast discussions that we have getting ready to do this. Yeah.
I don't know why they just haven't done one of those.
That's where I go back to, what does Jeff Alberts really bring? Because you look at the year that the Astros won the World Series, the year they knew it was coming, they also looked at the most pitches. They worked the most at bats, and that was Albert's big thing. You look at Matt Carpenter now. He's always worked at bats. He's still trying to work them, and he's swinging at crap, and he's letting the great stuff go by. Every team knows the first pitch we're going to throw is right down the pipe, and you guys aren't going to swing at it. Who's going to swing at it? Probably Tommy, maybe Dylan, maybe Bader and O'Neill, maybe. But even there, so it's
Molina swings at a lot of first, pitch. Yeah.
But that whole philosophy of we want to work at bats. I don't know, if I'm a pitcher and I'm aggressive, I'm going to throw you a first strike, and the next 3-4 pitches, I'm going to try to paint the corners, because I know you're either not going to go after him or you're going to swing and miss. That's just how it is.
Our outfielders, you just throw slider after slider after slider to our outfielders, and they can't hit it.
Speaking of which, I was going to say, John Mozeliak. Yeah, Mozeliak come out and he basically said, some of these hitters are taking to Jeff Albert better than others. Like he's got different needs, or different batters have different needs, so they come and ask him for opinions. You might have somebody, like you said, a Goldschmidt that's come over here and has always hit well, and he's trying to implement some of Jeff Albert's stuff. And maybe that has something to do with that whole disconnect. Maybe he's like, look, man, your shit ain't working for me. I'm going to go back to doing it my way. Then you've got these younger guys that, like you said, they come up and that's all they've known so far in the last couple of years has been his system. Well, when you're looking down in Memphis, the offensive, struggles down there, basically every AAA, AA, all the offense has been pretty piss poor. So if this is year 2 or 3 of his system really taking hold, it's like, is it really working out? Because if Mo's coming out and basically saying, well, yeah, he's our hitting coach, but don't blame him for everything, because some of these hitters are going to him for advice and some of them aren't. It's like, okay, then we're just using Jeff Albert's system. Who the hell needs Jeff Albert in the dugout? And obviously his system isn't working if the numbers aren't backing it up. I think, you got to shake something up. And we've said last week, there's going to be a scapegoat. Jeff Albert's probably going to be that guy. I don't think Schilt, after winning Manager of the Year just a couple years ago, is going to be on the hot seat. But I do think that fans get turned off from Mo because he is just so mundane in how he speaks and addresses the crowd and the fans. And Schilt's the same way. His post-game interviews, it's always, we got to tip our cap to the pitchers, because we faced a great pitcher today. I want a manager to come out and be like, yeah, we're going to face a good pitcher every damn game. They're major leaguers. It doesn't matter if it's Detroit or the Dodgers. These guys are paid millions of dollars. We're going to face a good pitcher. We got to find ways to hit the damn ball, or we got to find ways to get the ball across home plate. I'd like to see a little more fire from our ownership all the way down to our manager. I know Schilt's a player's coach, but you can't go to every post game interview and just saying the same shit. We're working our ass off. We're taking good at bats. We're losing 2-1. And the fans don't want to hear that shit.
You good?
Yeah.
I guess.
The funny thing is, I was looking at in the Memphis Redbirds won the championship in 2018, and half the guys on that team aren't even with the organization anymore.
Nope, they're all stars somewhere else.
That's right.
Again, organizational philosophy. You have to take a look at it. Like I said, it's not going to be all of it, but there has to be some communication or the same harmonious message, so to speak, to where everyone's on the same page. But obviously they aren't, and they haven't been, because our team is not as bad as the numbers reflect. Even with the injuries, going into this season, we talked about it multiple times, how deep we were with arms and the bullpen, and how how we were set if there were injuries, and that's another thing that I take a look at too. And I don't want this to be a 5-hour long podcast where we analyze everything, but I've said for years, and I know a lot of reporters, official reporters, have said that too. I think their conditioning and their health approach has not been well. We have an extreme amount of forearm and shoulder and crazy pitching injuries, way more than I would say any other team. And they happen with everyone, but with us, it's like clockwork. And then when it happens, what do we always do? We always bullshit and hee-haw around. Second opinion, we're going to put them on rest and give them an injection. Just fucking give them the surgery already. They fucking need it. They've already we drag it out for like 6-7 months, and then the next thing you know, we don't have a player for 2 years. We just go through the same cycles, it seems like, all the time.
On that note, our trainer made the All-Star game, so,
I know, I was going to mention that earlier, too. They fucking must be fucking – there's going to be players not going now.
Yep.
Maybe they're sending him over so he can sabotage every other team in the National League.
That'd probably be the best thing. And another thing, too, the Cardinals Nation needs to understand, at least on our Facebook page and Facebook group, is – everyone's saying, call up Livator, call up Thompson, let's get Nolan Gorman. There's a huge variance of promotion level between all of these different minor league levels. Okay. And honestly, Gorman got called up and I think he was hitting like 260 in AA. The days of the 300 hitter are gone. If you were raking in the minor leagues before, correct me if I'm wrong. I remember guys hitting like 400 getting promoted to the next level. Now they're promoting guys hitting 260. Well, he's 2 for 20 in Memphis now, Gorman is, and he's struck out 5 times compared to 1 walk. So it's a huge, those are huge steps. It's not just like, oh, hey, you're doing good, you're going to go here. The competition level is way higher from each step they go up, and Gorman, to me, looks or appears to be overmatched. And I think they're trying to rush him too quick. Not to the majors, obviously, because we don't want to do that. We don't want to bring somebody up to the majors too quick, even though everyone thinks this guy should technically be on the All-Star team because we have so many fucking professional scouts in the fucking group. But Gorman looks overmatched. Well, people are pissing me off. I try not to even read shit anymore, and I'm tired of getting messages about people that are idiots.
Yeah, what we have that one.
This podcast is brought to you by Excedrin Migraine. free with each subscription to the Cardinals Nation 24/7 Facebook group.
Great. We'll have to get 3 bottles out.
Yeah, this is a huge bottle. This is 300 pills in here. I bought it this morning. There's about 100 left.
Take them. It's only the 4th inning.
So as we do that, it's a great segue. Chris, do you want to tell everyone about the Facebook group and page and how everything's going?
Well, the Facebook page is, it's still us just putting out, news articles and whatnot. But basically, when the Cardinals have been struggling, there hasn't been really much positivity, flowing with the reports that we've been putting out. But same goes with the group. That is the fan forum where fans can voice their frustrations. And it's been more of that than anything positive. Obviously, we tell people this isn't a rah-rah group. Everybody has the right to voice their opinion on fandom. Like the other day, Reyes didn't have a clean inning. So why in the hell did this guy deserve to be an all-star? That was, somebody's post. And you get some of the extreme stuff that doesn't make any damn sense. But at the end of the day, some people are like, why don't you boot these guys? Well, the idea of Cardinals Nation 24/7 isn't to just have 100 like-minded fans that all agree on everything and are all going to be rah-rah go Cards all the time. It is a fan forum to voice your frustrations, to cheer the team on. Obviously, when they're struggling the way they have been, there's not a lot to cheer about. So we try to do our best to filter some of that stuff. But, both the page and the group are flourishing, and the YouTube channel keeps climbing. We're getting closer and closer to that 1,000 subscriber mark. So, we appreciate everybody that tunes in, subscribes, and helps us share this content out, that we put out each week for all you guys.
That's why you brought Zach in, so you can invite 7 family members to subscribe.
Hi, Mom.
There it is.
But let's focus on a couple positives because we only have a couple. Kim looked good in his last start, Chris. He went more than 4 innings, which was a plus. Matt Carpenter did hit a triple, which I've said time and time again, with the current state of the offense, I wouldn't mind seeing him play more, especially with the offensive injuries. I wouldn't mind if they're going to keep throwing Edman in the outfield. I would like to see him maybe get some more time at second base. He actually hasn't been that bad from what we've seen of him this year. I think giving him a few opportunities to play would be kind of nice. We can't get any worse. That's for damn sure. And we did win against the Giants, even though the Rockies walked us off twice. So your thoughts on the current series with the Giants? We won last night. We're going for a series win. We're currently up 4-2, thanks to Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado. Give us some positivity, Chris.
Well, baseball is a funny thing. We go on that horrendous losing streak, and then you go in, you're facing a team like the Giants, who had the best record in baseball. You follow that up with the Cubs series, and then you flip-flop, and you're facing the Giants and the Cubs yet again. So this is going to be a tough stretch. I think if the Cardinals are going to right the ship, obviously we would have liked to have seen that start a little earlier against teams like Detroit and Pittsburgh and Colorado, get some momentum going. But obviously, we'll take what we can get at this point. With the 1 win against San Fran, and they're currently leading this game, this is, some statement games. I'm not ready to give up on the Cardinals. I looked up Fangraphs has us at a 2.4% chance of making the playoffs as it stands today, with a 0% chance of winning the World Series. So obviously, if you're looking at stuff like that and you paying attention to some of Cardinal baseball, it'd be easy to have no hope for this team. But I do think we are going to start clicking on all cylinders. Something's going to get shaken up, whether it's somebody getting fired or some guys getting healthy. we're going to see the Cardinals go on a run. This division is still up for grabs, even though the Brewers went on their hell of a long win streak. I think that the division ends up beating each other up a little bit. The Cardinals do make a long run, and I still think this is a playoff team. Call me crazy, but I think we squeak into the playoffs this season.
Yeah, thank you for the info there, Crazy. Okay, Larry, give me your quick thoughts on the team. Tell everyone out there in Cardinals Nation your quick thoughts on where you think the team is at and what you foresee happening in the short term.
I kind of tend to agree with Chris. I think the division just going to beat up itself. It's going to be the black and blue division the rest of the year going. Right now, I think Cincinnati's kind of sitting back there watching everything going on. I don't know if you guys have paid attention to the Hunter Green kid, that they're going to call him up after the All-Star break. He's throwing 103, 104 miles per hour. So I think he gives them a big boost, and they play the Brewers, I think, like 7 games combined after the All-Star break. So right there's a lot of ground we could make up in a week just on the Brewers. The Cubs, I think, are a dumpster fire heading out. I think we're going to see them having a fire sale coming. So that's another boost in our direction. I think we're going to have to settle in on a shortstop position. I think that's going to be the biggest plus coming out. I would look for maybe a trade of DeYoung, and then if DeYoung's gone, Sosa moves to short for the year. But we look for a shortstop in the spring or over the winter. And I think the team, like you said, I think we're a better second half team. I think we'll come together. I think we have good leadership as far as the players in Nolan and Goldschmidt and Yachty and Waino, and I think that's going to be the big difference on this team. I think the leadership's going to step forward.
Okay, Crazy number 2. Zach, let me come to you and put it all on you. The Cardinals are 9 games out of first place, 2 games under 500. The wild card seeds are going to come out of the National League West. So this is going to be I think the third place team is like 52-37 in the National League West. So not happening if you're not in the National League West. So do you think the Cardinals can turn this around and win the Central Division?
Well, I mean, you just said half of what I was going to say, but no, I mean, I think if you look at history, you got to understand, if you're a fan of the Cardinals, sitting still right now, the Cardinals can still win 90 games. I mean, will they? We don't know, but history is such that their second half team, they're probably going to make it pretty close. 9 times out of 10, does 90 wins get you into the playoffs? Yeah, it does. So, I mean, there's that chance. I know there's a lot of fans that are going to say, we're all crazy for thinking that, but I mean, it's just kind of the way things have been. And, maybe we nosedive and we only win another 20 games this season, and that'd be on the rare side of history for looking at the second half of the season. You alluded to it. We're going to have to win the division in order to get in. Cubs are going to sell. They're going to probably sell big. Brewers always fall off near September. They always do. It's just the question now is 13 or however many games are up, 12, is that enough of a cushion for them to sustain? And that's what we'll have to find out. But I do think you're right. I think we're going to go on a run. I think there's too much leadership on this team to let them go, as long as, on another skid or a big enough skid to where they're not going to turn it around. I'd be really shocked if we saw them end at 500 or under.
It's me against the world.
I was going to say, hit me with a truth bomb, Jared, because
Crazy number 4.
No.
You're up.
I'm just going to say, you guys know our ace is about to turn 40. It's 20 years younger than Larry, but still old. Okay.
25.
No, I'm just kidding. But I mean, obviously, I want the Cardinals to do well too, like I think most of Cardinals Nation does. But I just don't see it happening. And it's not 4, it's not 5, 6 games. It's already 9. The Brewers usually do fall off at the end. That doesn't mean they're going to every year. Their pitching is a little bit better this year with Burns, and the Brewers saw that they were doing okay and were kind of okay, and they have made a couple of moves to improve their team, like Zach touched on earlier. And we're just doing what the Cardinals typically do, around this time, and we're trying to piece something together, which is not a bad move. At least they're doing something. Justin Williams did really well in the minor leagues for the Nationals. He struck out over half of the batters that he faced, so he could come in and do something well. Again, those numbers don't always correlate to Major League Baseball. But I feel like, the time to act is now. The season is already over halfway through, and you also still have to get through the Cubs and the Reds. But I do think the Cubs will sell because they do realize, and I'm pretty sure Larry said that a minute ago, the Cubs will sell because they're seeing what we see. They're thinking, they know that the National League West is going to take 3 of the 6 open spots, or sorry, 4. Shit, I don't even know. 3 of the 5 open spots. I can't even think properly. So they're going to take the majority of the playoffs, and I think the Cubs are going to know that. And once people are looking to, buy it towards, as we come to the final push, the Cubs are going to try to make some moves, and they're not going to let these guys walk for nothing. Your Chris Bryant and all these guys are not just going to disappear at the end of the season. Somebody is going to pick them up, and it could be somebody that we wouldn't even think, like, the Padres or whoever, or maybe somebody over in the East that needs an extra bat to get through because Donaldson is just really crapping the old sheets there. So, Bryant could end up on somewhere like the Braves. I mean, who knows? People see they have a chance, but the Cardinals here are going to have a very tough road ahead of them. I mean, the injuries are a huge concern, but them not really having a clear outline or focus, I don't think. I mean, they wouldn't tell us regardless, but I don't think they really have an idea of what they want to do. We've mentioned before, their money on the books at the end of this year. They just might try to go out and make a couple of moves, because if not this year, we know Waino and Yachty aren't going to come back after next season. So I don't know if they're going to ruffle. And if they do, and if they want to concede and say, hey, we're not going to make it this year, and they start making a couple of moves for next year, I would be okay with that. But I think them, by not defining or having a clear path of what they want to do, is just kind of piss people off for the rest of the season. And then, we just have to deal with it in Facebook.
Yeah, I mean, I know the last episode, we kind of went around the horn with who's going to get fired, and if the Cardinals do pull this series out against the Giants, and if they can beat the Cubs, is this the Band-Aid that goes over that issue and nobody does lose their job? Or do you think, like, heading into the All-Star break, is that going to be what shakes this team up, is a move like that where somebody does, lose their job? I'm still curious as to what they'll do, because I think they need more of a shakeup than just getting some of these utility players or veterans in to kind of stopgap some of the bleeding. I think that they really need a shakeup.
Yeah, and I just think the way Mozeliak and Gersh and DeWitt's, the way they operate things, again, I'm not saying they should be fired, because, we have to think back and reflect on the fact of we do play competitive ball every year, and they have made a lot of good moves. Like, people just forget that they just acquired Nolan Arenado for basically peanuts to start the season. So there's a lot going on, and the injury bug did hit us. There could be lack of proper preparation from the training staff, or it could just be shit luck and people just got hurt. But they just don't communicate that well, and I don't think they should be fired. But just with talk of miscommunication between coaching staff and players, obviously something needs to be done somewhere, and usually where there's smoke there's fire. And but I know I've seen stranger things. I thought Tony La Russa would be gone by now, because there was a huge disconnect with him and the White Sox, and now they seem to have that past them and are playing a little better. And they've been, everyone has injuries, so everyone has to deal with it. But Cardinals just haven't done well pivoting, and the minor leaguers just haven't played off. And that could be organizational, preparation, or it could just be they're having shitty luck and need more time. Larry, your thoughts on wrapping out the episode?
Yeah, I just, like I said again, I always like to be, kind of looking positives of what's going on. And I've said since the beginning, I want to see the kids play. I don't care. And nothing against Yachty, nothing against Waino. Thank God they're there. But I think, like Carlos pitched the other night, I think, Knezer was the catcher. I think it worked out a little bit better for him, and I've said that all year. I think the bouncing these kids around from position to position, I think it's the worst thing you can do to them. Carlson in the center field, I don't like that either. I think he's a right fielder. Put him there. Leave him alone. If DeYoung is not getting it done at shortstop with the bat, why is he still there? Moving. Put him at second base. I don't care. Maybe take some load off of him. I don't know. Let's make some adjustments. it just seems like we're kind of in that rut where we don't make those adjustments. Like you said, we pick up the kid from the Nats. He may be something that we don't know about. Maybe the scouting department does know something we don't. But I like Schilt. I think he's a baseball guy. I've said that since day one. I like this. I like the hire. He's been in the organization forever. But at some point, he's the buck stops here. It's at him. It's at his feet. So those decisions have to be made, and I look forward to the break. Maybe that's what these players need. Maybe just a little break. I mean, we all kind of went through a rough year last year with the COVID thing, and maybe the stress of them not being around their family right now. Maybe that's played a lot on it too. We don't know. A lot of these guys are younger, and they've got families and that are experiencing a little difficulties with the COVID stuff going on, and maybe that's a little bit too. I mean, not to make excuses, we're adults, but the All-Star break's a good break in time, and let's regroup. Let's circle the wagons and let's come out firing second half and go from there.
Yeah, I think taking time to reevaluate is a good thing, but I think kind of like Chris was saying too, and you followed up with that, Schilt is a good manager and he's a player's manager, and I think player managers are managers of the future. The days of the hard-nosed manager, I think, with players and the Players Association and them being such pansies that they are, the hard-nosed manager days are gone. But not that I have anything against the guy personally, but Maddox has never really impressed me ever, even when he was, with the Rangers and all these other teams. To me, he's never been anything exciting. I wasn't really excited whenever they brought him in. And the whole Albert thing, the numbers have been down every year. He was associated with the scandal. Anyone that says that they were a coach and didn't know what was going on, they're full of shit, in my opinion. And I think, the days are coming to where we see a lot more former players, like, I'm not saying he would be the hire, but, someone like a Jim Edmonds as a potential, hitting coach. And then you see someone potentially like, a Chris Carpenter or someone of that nature coming in to be a pitching coach, just like how Kansas City, they do have Matheny, and Matheny got a bad rep and he's done well in Kansas City this year, but Cal Eldred is his pitching coach, and he still has, maybe with him, I think having players that can relate to the newer players is a more common thing than having the old guy that's been around since 1962. I just think that's baseball shifting. Not that I agree or disagree with it, but that's my thought press on it. But Zach, what about you? You got any closing comments here for the Cardinals? I know it's probably been tough on you. Your first podcast, we're sorry that you happen to pick a time when the Cardinals are just playing like shit. So that's your fault for bad scheduling.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have hit the nail on the head on a lot of things. I just think that, if I don't really think anything's going to change here. I think, like Chris said, I think we're going to do well enough here at the end that it's going to put a Band-Aid on things. I don't foresee a shakeup coming, not till the end of the season. And then who knows, even if we make the playoffs, I could still see some things changing in the offseason. I think that's going to open the door for a lot of things. However, if we do miss the playoffs, let's just say, things stay even keel, or, Brewers just have too much of a cushion. I do kind of hope, we see a changing of the guard. I do hope some of the veteran players, kind of find their way out and, leave and do the turning of the guard, because I think, looking at Nolan Arenado, he's not going to opt out this year, but you better bet that if we go over 2 in his first 2 years of not making the playoffs, he's going to consider it. He has to. I mean, as much as he wants to be a Cardinal, he's, going to go down as one of the greatest third basemen to ever play the game. And I mean, you follow sports in general. If a guy doesn't win a championship or isn't on a winning team, that hurts him. It does. And so he's got to think of that too. So, I mean, there's got to be some big changes that are coming. I love Paul DeJong. He's struggled. I've said before that if that guy was even a 250 hitter, I could see him being a Cardinal for life. I just don't think it's going to happen. And you know what? I would have said Trevor Story's never going to be a Cardinal, but I never say never. And now that DeJong's playing like he is, he got his best friend Nolan here. That could open itself up as a possibility in the offseason. So I just think there's a lot of possibilities that could happen, but I don't really know that anything is going to change here in the short term.
Yeah, and then I guess I'm not ending it yet, but Chris, it's another good point. We've mentioned a couple times, but we do have a lot of money coming off the books next year. So if the Cardinals do decide to just, kind of mail it in and do some patchwork here, maybe make some minor adjustments, let people get healthy, next year could still be promising for the Cardinals. We don't want to focus on it too much, but you do have to think about the possibilities and positions, where they could shore up some things, maybe at a pitching position, maybe at shortstop. But it's, even though it's not, I mean, you kind of have to start planning for those things now and have your eye toward the vision of the future, right?
Yeah, I mean, one thing about John Mozeliak, even though he did fire Matheny and Mabry mid-season, they tend to want to do things after the season's over when they address a need. So as much as I think things do need shaking up, I think they might go that route of just riding this out. You can throw the excuse out that it was because of injuries or players not being prepped well because of the COVID year last year and how that screwed everything up. But with that much money coming off the books, and they're not going to bring Martinez back, they'll buy out his option to return. There's some talented players, mainly at the shortstop position next year, that I think the Cardinals could go get them a starter if need be. They go get you a stud shortstop and possibly an outfielder. But there's money to play with that the Cardinals haven't had in the past, and I think going forward, you'll have Molina and Wainwright back again next year. That pretty well eases Arenado's worries. I think he'll be all in next year. This was going to be the springboard year for next year, I think. And with that money coming off the books, that's where the Cardinals are really going to make a play for not just making the postseason, but really going after a championship. I believe it'll be next season.
Yeah, and you do have to think it too, Zach. I'm going to circle back to you one last time. And again, put you on the spot again. This is your fault. You picked this time on the schedule to join us. You could have came on. We were hot and heavy. Signed to Arenado. You waited. You were like, when can I jump into the mix? Boom. Bottom feeder. Your thoughts. I brought this up once before to Chris and Larry, but I want to get your thoughts. To me, a lot of it too is, we've mentioned that there's not as much fun going around. I mean, so you see Waino doing his typical things, but Dexter Fowler always had positive energy, always had a smile on his face, joking around with the guys. We had Jose Martinez doing the same thing as well. Even Colton Wong from time to time, they used to throw the water in the face after the end of the home run trot. It just doesn't seem like they're not having as much fun playing baseball as they should be.
Yeah, and you guys are probably gonna throw the book at me for saying this, but I think they have the most fun when Harrison Bader plays, and you all know how big of a fan of him I am. I just think the kid, I mean, his attitude's, in my opinion, kind of electric. He's always out there with a smile. He's always bouncing around. He can't hit worth shit, but you know what? He seems to get people going and things like that. And so I think I've noticed a difference when he's playing. But yeah, for the most part, I think maybe you kind of have some different things. I mean, you got Arenado, who it's not his team, but yet he's kind of a leader. Everybody expects him to kind of step up. But Wainwright and Yachty are really it's their team, and so I mean they're kind of stoic in the way they do things when they're playing. When Waino's on the bench, he's all fun and games. But I think there's kind of not really a divide, but there's nobody really stepping up to kind of make it that fun environment. I think it's more so you have the older guys that's just the way they are, and the younger guys don't want to. Either the younger guys don't want to step into that role yet because they don't want to, step on any toes, or you have guys like Arenado and Goldschmidt who it's not really their team. Even though Goldschmidt's been here a while, Arenado's going to be here for a while. It's not their team yet, So I think that's kind of the way I see it.
Oh shit! And Goldschmidt may be different behind closed doors.
Yeah,
I never muted myself. I just muted myself when I talked there. Goldschmidt may be different behind closed doors, but you can just tell from him playing, he's not really an emotion on his sleeve type of guy. He kind of keeps to himself. Now, the only thing that's different to me is you would think in the locker room, and maybe there is, maybe we just don't know or we don't see it, but you would think Yacht would definitely have a lot more fire and, get these guys going a little more because he kind of reminds you of the kind of guy that just doesn't take shit from anybody. And Waino, I could see him being the good go-to guy and giving advice, but not really cracking down on someone. But I could see Yachty telling someone, hey, man, you did this, you missed this play, you fucked that up. And that's one thing. I didn't like Tommy Pham, but that's one thing I liked about Tommy Pham. He would kind of let guys know, hey, let's get your shit together. Let's go win this game. And Matt Carpenter, even though he even said this year, I understand what my role is. I don't really see in him being much of a guidance guy either. He's kind of quiet himself. It's just an interesting mix of guys, and this might not even be the Cardinals in the front office fault. We've seen teams like the Yankees, even the Dodgers before last year. These guys go out and they sign all these big name players, and they do everything they can to pull all these guys together. But for whatever reason, it just doesn't click, and it could be manager player philosophy, it could be mix of players. Just for whatever reason, maybe it's just not click, Chris.
Hey, I mean, winning championships isn't easy. I mean, look at the Yankees. How much money do they just throw at teams? And I mean, yeah, they have the most World Series because they've been the team around for the longest. But I mean, sometimes they have the best rosters and they don't win. I mean, look at the Padres. I mean, last year, they were really good. This year they're really good, but that doesn't mean they're going to win. I mean, arguably, I'd say Padres are probably my favorite over the Dodgers. Just because they're younger.
One thing you notice about the Padres though is they're always having fun. You can tell those guys like playing the game, and they've got a different attitude, and they've got kind of that new age swag, I guess I would say. Which a lot of people, me, I'm kind of an old school fan, but I kind of like that stuff too. Like I don't just like how Tony got mad at his guy for hitting the home run. I don't care about the guy hitting the home run. Now, if the guy swung at a take pitch. That, if you're not listening to the manager on take pitch, but him hitting the home run, I don't give a shit. This is Major League Baseball. Just how, Tatis hitting the home runs. Let him hit the home runs. That's what we pay to see. I don't want to see no bullshit. Oh, we're already beating them. This ain't fucking elementary school.
You got to remember the Padres are in third place in their own division.
Yeah.
So, they've got the most expensive infield in all of baseball, and they're in third place. And the Giants are probably the cheapest of the three teams, and they're in first place. So, that's the thing. Our fans want us to spend money, drop money, but money doesn't solve the problems where the Yankees and the Boston Red Sox that win every year. And so there is a fine line someplace that you have to have that leadership and you have to have that chemistry. And I think that's been lacking for several years in St. Louis, that we just don't have that team chemistry. And I think that's part of the reason I think some of these guys like the Adolis Garcias and the Randy Arenas and those guys are gone, is maybe they just didn't fit into what we thought the culture would be. The problem is, like you said, we want new baseball, the swagger. We want to have fun, but yet we want to win. So the St. Louis Cardinals fan base, I think as a whole, is my generation or older. You guys are young fans compared to some of us, and the guys that buy the season tickets and stuff. So there's, it's not Cardinals baseball. It's not Cardinals way.
Yeah, and I think you're right, Larry. I think it's finding a mix between respecting baseball and respecting the rules of baseball, and still having some of that old school tradition, which I do like. A lot of people say a lot of bad things about Jack Flaherty. I do like his old school, his way he gives credit to the players that came before him, and credibility to the old school players, and being thankful for what he's been shown by players of the past. I think that's a good, important mix to have, and I think maybe it's just finding it, and we just haven't found it, or we don't have the right mix, Chris.
I think you guys all made good points, as far as gelling as a team. But one thing that baseball is a game of like momentum, and it's like the Cardinals have yet to really get on more than a couple games. When you're losing series left and right, you're not gaining any traction. And if you want to see these guys out there having fun, losing isn't fun. So
you're talking about series that the Cardinals should be winning, right, Chris?
Right. So that's got to take a blow to your confidence, and then I'm sure that weighs on guys even like Schilt. I'm sure he don't want to go out and do a post game interview and have to say the same shit over and over. And I'm sure those players that are pressing, trying hard. I know that's why Schilt says those things, that these guys are working their tail off, and I'm sure they are. But you're not getting the results because there's just so many different things that go into it. I like seeing Bader hustle and kind of, act crazy and, get them pumped up. But, I don't want to see that, like Carlos coming off 2 or 3 bad outings in a row and him dancing around. It's like get a streak going. Something's got to build this up, and it's going to take winning to do that. But if it's already in their head that they're going into games trying not to lose, and not go out there and, hey, let's kick the shit out of this team. They've got to have that killer mentality, and I don't think the Cardinals have that.
It's just simple. Sometimes, even, and it has happened to major leaguers, and not that we all have the answers and we should be coaches or anything, but a lot of times it's like LeBlanc said, Chris, we talked about it last week too. He's like, I pitch to the strike zone. You have to throw strikes first, and pitch within the zone before you can start working off the plate. Everyone's scared wants to nibble, but you have to focus on the fundamentals of, it's old school baseball. Baseball still, even though it changes, it's not going to change. It's protecting whenever you have two strikes. It's little things like choking up on the bat. Working the pitch count. But but like Zach said, also paying attention and being smart and knowing does this guy throw a fastball, first pitch fastball 90% of the time. Maybe I want to shake it up and swing at this first pitch. And just like how we've talked about Matt Carpenter not being able to hit the opposite way or put down an opposite bunt hit when they have a hell of a shift against him. It's just little things like that. The day a 300 hitter are gone, baseball's not designed for that, which we touched on earlier with the shifts and everything that's taking place in today's game and the amount of prep work and research and knowing hitters hot and cold zones and where to attack and scouting reports. It's different. It's just a different game. The days of the 300 hitter are gone unless they get rid of the shift or do some other things to change that. They're talking about making the bases bigger to stolen bases. It's not the same game. It's an evolving game, and the Cardinals have to evolve as well because this will happen, and they'll be sitting where they currently are in the standings and have the fans getting pissed and buying less tickets and watching less on TV, which is going to affect money. And as long as that keeps happening, the Cardinals will probably look to make a change because they want that cheddar cheese. So we'll round out and closing thoughts because as it is getting late and it is almost midnight for the legend on the East Coast, and it's getting late for you guys as well in the Central. Zach, let's go to you first. Anything, closing thoughts you want to bring up, mention, any questions you want to ask? Fantastic.
No, I'm just glad I got to be on the first one.
Yeah, no, we're glad that you were able to jump on for us. We're glad to have you, man. We hope you're able to again. I know you got newborns and you're selling houses left and right because you're trying to make that cheddar cheese just like the Cardinals. You're trying to get to that $3 million every year. So, we see where you're at, just like how Larry's slinging insurance left and right. Larry, coming to you. Anything you want to throw out in closing?
I'm just glad Zach was able to get on with us tonight, man. So
yeah,
the All-Star break, man, the home run derby, man, that's going to be exciting this year, I think.
Yeah, Shohei Ohtani, the unicorn.
Yeah, he is a pretty talented pitcher, and he's pitcher, hitter, whatever, and he's showing it this year. As the clock approaches 12 o'clock, Larry's going to turn into a pumpkin soon. Chris, your final thoughts?
No, Ohtani might be pitching to himself in the home run derby. That might be pretty neat.
You guys need to quit mentioning Ohtani because now people are going to be in the damn group talking about trade for Ohtani, Gorman.
Well, duh, that's the only logical step. Come on.
Gorman, Thompson.
Can Carp pitch? Maybe Carp can pitch and play second base. Oh.
I think Carp has a ERA under 2.
Speaking of which, did you guys? This is off topic, and I'm cutting off your final thought, Chris. But did you guys see the guy for the Rays that got to come out and pitch?
Yes.
Yes.
That was great.
94 mile an hour all the way to the eephus pitch at 47 mile an hour.
I just like the way he carried it. I honestly, when I first saw it, I thought it was some made-up bullshit thing. I actually thought I was watching on John Boy Media was where I saw it first, and I thought it was some joke somebody pieced together. Just him out in the bullpen being like, yeah, you want me? Then he sprints out there. I thought it was hilarious. Having that kind of stuff in the game sometimes is what we need, and I thought it was fucking hilarious.
Just as good as his performance was his post-game interview, where he was telling people flat out, I've got nasty stuff. I've always should. It was just great.
What didn't he say? He could see himself being the next Randy Johnson. I thought he said I could see myself being the next Randy Johnson. I thought it was great. We need more stuff like that in baseball, in my opinion. A little more lightheartedness. But your thoughts on the Cardinals and this current shit show?
Final thoughts would be that this All-Star break is going to be much needed. I think the Cardinals. I don't think they all need to go in and watch video during this break. I think they need a break from baseball. Just totally reset their minds a little bit. Go out on a fishing trip or something. Do something to get their mind off of it, and then come back refreshed because they are a second half team. There is a lot to overcome in this second half. But they need to gel on a different level and maybe come back into the clubhouse, totally fresh and not just taking it a game at a time, but with a mission of we've got something to prove.
right, fantastic. All right, well, that's going to do it for this episode of Cardinals Nation 24/7. For the Cardinals Nation 24/7, Mr. Olympia, Zach Jen. For the legend, Larry Cox. And for the Bearded Dragon, Chris Lawless, I'm Jared. Thanks for joining us, and go Cards.
Go Cards.
Go Cards.
Go Cards.